In this month's Dallas-Fort Worth's real estate market update, we are breaking down the latest real estate headlines and seeing if the actual data lines up. Maybe you saw them. Why buying a home in Dallas is so much more expensive than renting. North Texas housing inventory hits 12-year high. What happens next? How accurate are these? And as always, we will get to the market numbers so you can see how the market is performing as it compares to this same time last year. So let's get to it. First, let's talk about these headlines, and we'll start with this one from the Dallas Business Journal. Why buying a home in Dallas is so much more expensive than renting. Now, maybe you saw this article too. Kind of surprising, right? I mean, if you are considering jumping in as a first-time home buyer, or maybe you bought recently and are doubting that it was a good decision, well, this headline may give you some pause or give you that pang of buyer's remorse. And I know what you're thinking. Here goes the realtor telling everyone not to rent. Now hold on, let me first address that sometimes renting does make sense. Sometimes there are short-term needs that require it, and it does make financial sense to rent instead of buy. There, I said it. And sometimes you don't have the cash reserves saved up to purchase, and that's keeping you out of the market. But actually, if that is you, let's talk, because there are options available if you have little to no money for a down payment. But to be clear, I don't want to downplay the necessity of renting when it's there. However, I do want to make sure that you have all the facts and all the data before making big life decisions. So let's get back to that news article. Now, according to the article, the source for the report factored in the typical monthly mortgage cost, including taxes and projected interest rates with a 10% down payment. Now, the article states, to put it another way, the Dallas market had a cost multiplier of 2.2 at the end of 2023. That meant it was more than twice as expensive to buy than to rent on a monthly basis. And I'll give away the ending now because I am about to get into some weeds with some numbers, and I don't want you to miss this fact, and that's that there is a huge problem going off of select averages and macro level analysis. It's so generic, it does not paint an accurate picture and gives people bad advice that they then use to go about and make big life decisions on. Okay, so now let's go down the rabbit hole with the math. We'll start with the inputs they gave us. They said this was based on typical monthly mortgage costs, taxes, projected interest rates with a 10% down payment. So what did they use to come up with this 2.2 multiplier? Well, after doing some number crunching, the best I could come up with is that they looked at the average sales price in all of the MLS and stuck with the rental price in Dallas. And then when I run the calculation with inputs for percent down, interest rate, tax rate, insurance rate, then I get a monthly payment of $4,430. Now with the rental price in Dallas of $2,049, that gets us pretty close to that 2.2 multiplier. Technically, it came out to a multiplier of 2.16, but I'm going to round up and call that good enough. And a side note to this, if you're looking at a rental price of $2,049 where that multiplier is a 1-for-1, meaning the cost to own equals the cost to rent, well, given those inputs of percent down, interest rate, taxes, and insurance, that means a house purchased for $229,000 would cost you the same as your monthly rent payment. Now, back to their analysis. I have such a huge problem with this comment about it being 2.2 times more expensive to buy than to rent. You cannot make a blanket statement by using different data sets to make a comparison. You cannot look at a city number and compare it to a regional number. And maybe they did not do that, but this report is too vague and doesn't give us all the details for us to know for sure. So I want to show you an actual like-for-like comparison. I did a quick look at the most popular rental communities in the Metroplex and at random picked this neighborhood in Plano, Dallas North Estates. In the last 90 days, there were 20 homes that sold and 14 properties that leased. That's a pretty good data set. Now, when we look at lease data, we see that the median lease price is $2,685, and the median home is 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and 1,849 square feet. The median sales price for the same neighborhood during the same time is $437,500, and that median home is 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and 1,896 square feet. So we are looking at homes that really don't get much more similar than that. Now we run the numbers on what a mortgage would look like on a $437,500 home. Now, using those same inputs from the previous exercise, however, I actually used real tax rates for this community, which is 1.726%, and that gives us a monthly payment of $3,701. That is only 1.378 times more expensive than the median lease rate. If it were 2.2 times more expensive, that would mean the monthly mortgage payment would need to be $5,907. So when you compare like for like, the math does not show the same result that the article states. It also doesn't give you a very big picture of that decision to rent versus buy, because a lot of people will look at that monthly difference of $1,016 a month from the mortgage amount to the lease amount and go, you know what? I am saving $12,192 a year by renting instead of owning. This is a no-brainer. To which I would say, wait a minute, please, just a little bit, and indulge me and let me show you just a little more math. Because what this quick back of the napkin news math does not take into consideration is the principal that you've put in, which gets larger every month. It does not take into account your equity that's building and compounding. It does not take into account the tax write-off benefit of mortgage interest and property taxes if you itemize your deductions. So here is what that looks like with this scenario. Okay, so at first you're looking at the difference between a mortgage payment and a rent payment of $1,016 a month. Multiplied by 12 months, that gives you $12,192 for the year. At the end of year one, you would have paid $3,955 in principal on your mortgage. Now, you get that principal payment back when you sell. Then you need to factor in the equity gain. In Plano, the median price has increased 5.3% year over year. But let's go with a conservative 3.5% price appreciation. Multiply your home price of $437,500 times that 3.5%, and you get $15,312 in equity gained in year one. So when you remove your lost principal and lost potential equity gain, you actually come out with a $7,075 loss when you rent. And that's just in year one. When you look at year two, you lose even more because every month you pay your mortgage, the principal portion of that payment is a little more each time. So in year two, you actually pay $4,243 in principal payments. But another thing that happens in year two is you get that first benefit of the magical financial gift of compounding interest. And it just gets bigger every year because last year at a 3.5% rate of appreciation, you gained $15,312 in equity. So you add that to your original price of $437,500, which now puts your property a little over $452,000. And we'll assume another price appreciation of 3.5%. Well, now your equity has increased to $15,848 in year two. So now let's go back to the original perceived annual benefit of saving $12,192 each year because you're renting instead of owning. Well, in year two, when you factor in your principal payment and the equity gained from year two, you're actually at a loss of $7,899 in year two. And in just years 1 and 2 alone, that is a total of $14,974 lost when renting. As soon as you buy, you lock in your cost of living, with the only variables being tax increases and insurance increases. And your tax increases are kept at a 10% valuation increase every year. And by the way, if the market value for your home goes up 10% and creates that increase in taxes paid, then that means your equity has gone up by that same percentage too. And in this example, a 10% increase in valuation for year two would mean your equity increased $43,750 in 1 year. And that massive equity gain would only create an additional $755 tax expense for the year. Your landlord, however, well, there's no telling how much they might increase your rent for the next renewal to make up for their tax expense and insurance expense. And you can see why there are so many reports that show that homeowners have substantially more wealth than renters. And I'm not just talking about this being a recent phenomenon due to the home value increases over the last 4 years. I found this from the U.S. Census Bureau that reported on 2017 numbers. When you include homeowner equity, homeowners had 88.6 times more wealth than renters. And I hear the counter argument now. Hey, Jennifer, the market's going to crash sometime. This only works if prices go up. And that's partially right. The math does only work if prices go up. So if you are betting on the short term, 1, 2, maybe 3 years, it could be risky. But if you plan to live in a place for years, well, the trend line shows that real estate increases in value over time. Just like the stock market, it does have moments where it can go down, and it will go down again at some point, but it does not go all the way back down to the bottom. A new bottom is typically created and then it goes up again from there. And remember, I'm giving you a pass on this if you have a short-term need and renting is really your only option right now. But if you plan on staying put for 2 or more years, I would highly encourage you to look at the math on this to make sure it really does make sense for your situation. Okay, so that was just the first article I wanted to bring up. I still have more to talk about because I also saw this article. North Texas housing inventory hits 12-year high. What happens next? Now, to their credit, there is more information in the body of the article for the numbers, but if you didn't read the details and stopped at the headline and kept scrolling and made your analysis based on the headline, well, this would be a startling statistic and you'd probably think, wow, it's quite a buyer's market out there. So you know that I'm your data queen, so let's look at the actual numbers. Now this is a look at our entire MLS stats. It's all property types, all construction types, everything that's listed that's not commercial. Now this tool goes back to 2003. You could look at inventory in one of two ways, the total number of homes for sale or the months of supply. Now the article referenced months of supply, so we'll get to that in a minute. But when we look at the total number of homes for sale in our MLS, there are currently 36,628 listings. Now, the last time we had this many homes for sale was in May of 2020, when we had 38,162 homes for sale. Inventory levels sat above our current levels for 15 months between 2019 and 2020. We also had more inventory in June through November of 2018. So this inventory is really not anything especially remarkable. It feels that way because we're remembering the last few years and we're up 36% year over year, but we've kind of forgotten how things were before. Okay, so how about that second way of looking at inventory and considering the months of supply? Well, right now, with all the listings on our MLS, we have 4 months of supply. And this means that based on the current demand, it would take about 4 months for all the current inventory to be purchased if no new homes hit the market. Now, we used to say that 6 months was considered a balanced market, and the article even references that. But if you're a seller in a 6 months of inventory market, I promise you that does not feel balanced. In fact, we're starting to see that 4 months of inventory is closer to a balanced market environment. And what I mean by that is that in a balanced market, you have negotiations. In a balanced market, both sides make concessions. In a balanced market, one side does not get a leg up on the other side because of market conditions. Now, according to this chart, the last time we were at 4 months of inventory was in 2019. From April to November of that year, we had 4 or more months of inventory. We were at or above 4 months of inventory for 5 months in 2018. So to kind of fact check this headline, our inventory level, according to this source right here that looks at our entire MLS system, this current level is more like a 4.5-year high, not a 12-year high like this article would have you believe. And I'm sure we're using different sources, but I like referring to our MLS. So please, before you make big life decisions on what you're reading in the news or seeing online, please make sure you are looking at real data. Now, we feel like this is so important that as part of the onboarding process for our clients who are starting to look into buying a home, we actually set them up with a dashboard that updates real time with market data specific to the type of home and the DFW submarket where they're looking to buy. It's also why before our clients make an offer on a home, we provide a comprehensive analysis of the hyper-local market. So each offer is an informed one. We know a lot of people right now are concerned about the market, and they're worried about making a bad investment. And the news media knows this. It's why you see so many headlines about how bad it is, and because that gets your attention. And then you read that headline in a way to kind of provide a confirmation bias to your market apprehension. So be sure you are consulting data beyond the news article. And speaking of data, here is how the DFW real estate market performed in May. The median sales price was $385,000, and that was a 1.3% increase from last year. Now, this number has consistently increased since January. Now, we already talked about this one, the inventory of homes for sale, and it has risen to 36,628 homes on the market for May. And this is a 36.6% increase from the previous year, indicating a more active market with more options for buyers. In May of 2024, there were 17,637 new listings, and that's a 15.4% increase from last year. Pending sales have seen a slight decrease. There are currently 10,489 pending sales, and that's down 5.8% year over year. The median price per square foot rose to $195 a square foot, and that was a 1.6% year over year increase. Homes are spending 24 days on the market, and that's a 26.3% increase from last year. And the time on market has been declining since January. Closed sales in May reached 11,483 sales, and that's a 1.6% decrease year over year. The median percent of the original price received by sellers is 97.8%. And this metric helps us understand the negotiation dynamics and indicates that sellers are still getting close to their asking prices, but need to be flexible. The month supply of inventory currently stands at 4 months, reflecting a 42.9% increase from last year. The takeaway? Well, this market we're in is not a runaway success for anyone right now. We're in a balanced market where sellers just can't push their pricing because, well, there's just a lot more competition out there. And we're in a market where buyers have some leverage. And as long as the argument for their negotiation is sound, such as comps showing that a house might be overpriced, well, sellers are generally willing to listen if they've been on the market for 30 days or more. Now, if we have not met yet, I am Jennifer Shannon. I'm a realtor and broker associate with the Crest Edge Group at Keller Williams. And also, if you've not picked up on it yet, I thrive on providing you with lots of good, valuable data and real estate advice. Our group knows that when you're starting the process of buying a home, selling a home, or relocating to the Dallas area, you want all the data, all the details, and you want to feel well informed about the process. You're on multiple sites, multiple apps, just soaking in all the information you can so you can feel confident that you're making a smart decision. Well, we get you, and we want to be your real estate resource of choice. It's why we provide videos like this one to make sure you are getting answers to the questions you might have about the market. So if you're ready to hit that easy button on buying or selling a home in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, simply reach out to us by phone or text to 214-803-4444 or start with an email to me at jshannon@kw.com. I'll get back to you with a scheduling link for us to start with a Zoom call so we can put a plan in place for your move. I'll also have that link posted in the description of this video so you can go ahead and get that scheduled. If you found this video helpful, remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more real estate tips, and hit that notification bell to stay updated. And be sure to check out another one on this channel.